Greetings and welcome to Enigmatic. Happy Saturday. I hope that everyone gets to relax and maybe have some fun. Do what you need to do for you to recharge yourself, especially if you have a 5 day work week or even a 4 day work week of 4 10s. I say that because I'm not working anywhere near that much and I'm still extremely worn out. But it's a health issue, so I'll just keep working on it. What I wanted to discuss today or explore is a wondering, is it possible to be too humble? And I ask this question as a byproduct of my own self-reflection. Like, am I too humble? Is this why I don't make as much headway as I want? I think a good way in which it shows itself is at the gym or whenever I do things that are physical. I kind of feel like a lifelong athlete, even though I'm not playing any sports in particular. I just like to go hard, and I mainly do that for my own mind. It helps me to manage, the shit. But sometimes there's some things I do, and people are like, "Oh, over here showing off," and I don't have a very good connotation or association to the term showing off or the idea that people think that I'm showing off, because I'm not trying to be arrogant and I'm not trying to get any undue recognition or praise. But the thing is like I take it a little too seriously whenever somebody says, "Oh, you're showing off," and that's a subconscious response because my dad was also the type to tell me to stop showing off, but I wasn't showing off. So there's a disconnect in identifying and diagnosing when I'm doing something because it's just something that I do, when I'm doing something I want to show someone because it makes me happy or I want to connect with that person in that way, and then when I'm actually showing the fuck off, you know. Um, so for example, at the gym, I like to do muscle ups and I like to try to get muscle ups in whenever I can because the more you do them, the better you get at it. But there's only one pull-up bar at the gym that I actually like doing them on. There's two of them are too high, one of them is too close to a wall. So there's too many other things in my head, worried about if I'm going to hit the wall trying to get around the bar to get above it. So I like to go and use this one bar. But when I use that one bar, people will definitely say like, "Oh, you're showing off." And so it makes me uncomfortable, obviously. I'm like, no, no, no. Like, I'm just trying to get it in. Like, that set wasn't even that good anyway. Right. And I actually feel like a certain amount of discomfort because I don't want people to think that I'm showing off. So here we are again. Like, I don't want to, I care what they think to the extent of what I have to deal with. Right. And, but maybe I should admit, like, yeah, some of the shit that I can do is cool. Right. Um, a dragon squat is fucking cool. I do it because I like doing it and I like the movement and I like the engagement of my glutes and quads, and it also helps me to assess from my right hip and my left hip, what's going on and what the differences are just because of the muscles that are activated through the movement. But a lot of people will tell me like, "Oh, you're showing off." I like to push my edges. I like to challenge myself, and so I need to figure out how to just shrug that off when people say something like that, because it's not what I'm doing. Um, there's actually times where I'll go a little bit crazier when nobody's around because nobody's around. If I was showing off, then I would do the crazy ass shit only when people are around, right? Um, so yeah, this is something that I'm trying to really figure out because I don't I don't feel like I have a lot of confidence, and I feel that there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And so, in order to play it safe, I try to always just stay humble. And as a result of that, I downplay pretty much everything that I do and all my capabilities and all my capacities and all of my gifts. I hate it on a job application when it's like, oh, list your strengths. I want to be a smartass and list my strength, explicitly, by writing down I have a 315 squat and a 405 deadlift. But that's not what they mean. But at the same time, I feel uncomfortable saying like, well, I'm strong at doing this. I don't like, I'll say I'm an incisive person, but I say that as a descriptor of myself, not as a strength, which it can be a strength, but too much of anything is a bad thing. Um, and so even though that could be a good thing, maybe it's too much of a good thing. And same with humility for me right now. Maybe it's too much of a good thing. So like let's see what Google AI, what Gemini wants to pull up for us. It's not terrible. Humble primarily means not proud or arrogant, having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. Sorry, can't read. It can also describe something that is low in rank, position, or status. In essence, it's about recognizing one's limitations and not seeking excessive praise or recognition. So yeah, I am like too humble. Because I operate off of the Socratic paradox. I know nothing at all, but I am a very aware person. But at the same time, I give the benefit of the doubt way more than I need to. And then also, as I highlighted with the example of quote unquote showing off, like I'm not necessarily showing off. And then also, why is it that I am interpreting it solely as a bad thing whenever somebody says that to me? It's said plenty of times to me with a smile on someone's face. So what's my problem? That's what the question is. And it's my discomfort. And it's my childhood haunting me. And this reminds me, there's a point, I think it was like 3 or 4. I don't even remember. I was so little. But I remember my dad giving me this lecture about you'll never be cool. People might think that you're cool, but you'll never be cool. And I just took it as I'm never going to be cool. And so it kind of fucks you up when like I get what he might have been trying to go for. At the same time, it just served to stifle my self-esteem. But he didn't consider what the optics for me are as a child relative to what he wanted to share. Right? He probably would have needed to wait a few years before he wanted to share that idea with me. I'm a little kid, you know. I was so little that I didn't understand the distinction between babes and babies, because I do remember around that same period of time that I had some sunglasses on and I was getting ready to go out with my mom, and I said something about like, yeah, I'm gonna go get all the babies, and what I meant was get all the babes. So it's like I'm too young to really know what the fuck is going on, yet you want to lecture me about like I'll never be cool. And that only serves to stifle and hinder and destroy the foundation of self-esteem for a kid. um so that's kind of interesting to notice and to take note of. And it's not like I haven't paid attention to this information before, but to package it in a certain way to present it for a certain type of realization for myself, that's what is new about it in this moment right now. So yeah, and I think that also when, one has depression and lower self-confidence and self-esteem, that humility, or too much attribution and prioritization of humility, can be damaging. And I mean, I might have to go into this in another video because I have some stuff I got to get ready to do, but I wanted to post one more, post again before I took care of all that shit. But like, yeah, having like depression and anxiety and things like that, and then telling myself over and over again like I have no use for pride, and always stay humble. Like, I mean, at this point I don't even know how to celebrate myself. I was thinking about reaching out to someone to explore how I can do that, because one of the things that I like to do, or I feel like I like to do, is to be productive. But then whatever I'm productive with, it never gets celebrated. I never feel good about it. Or if I do, it is ever so fleeting and it's on to the next one. And so with being so humble, like I don't even know how to celebrate myself. And that's been the case for a long, long time. Like I graduated college 15 years ago and I didn't tell anybody that I graduated, and I didn't walk. And some of that was my dissatisfaction with what had occurred in college, and also not realizing, the success and what kind of big deal it was. It was just like, okay, I went to college, overly humble again. So now that we're bringing awareness to this, the question is, how do I shift it, right? Without being a prick. And I might have to take the risk sometimes and just be a prick and see what happens and learn from that. I have to kind of wade into the water and take some risks. So, but yeah, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for listening and taking note, witnessing. I hope this helps you. Again, just trying to be sincere in my channel. So, but again, have a great Saturday, and be good to you, be good to others. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, share, and have a great day. Talk to you next time.